Welcome everybody to another fascinating and wonderful event by the WJ and Asscher chapter. I'm Erica Silverglide, and I am extremely excited about this event. I've been putting it together for the last few months with some incredible panelists that I am honored to be able to introduce to all of you. This event is going to be recorded, and if you have any questions, save them for the end, and we'll be sure to answer them. But the panelists today are three experts in their field, from history to cutting to the world of diamonds. And I was excited to learn more about each and every one of them. To start, we have Chris, who is currently in Germany. He is extremely passionate about diamonds. He's a fellow GG from GIA, and he continued his education with rough diamonds at HDR in Antwerp, where he found many friends and a passion for diamonds. He now works alongside his family in a jewelry company, and he has a massive love for diamonds. He's a history buff and has a lot of awesome stories to share with us about some of the most well-known diamonds that I think we've all read in newspapers and magazines. And he's going to share some of those stories with us today. He's married and has 2 children, and they are currently living in Munich. Welcome, Chris. Second, we have Mike Asscher. Mike Asscher began his career at the Royal Asscher in 1998, training as a diamond cutter and polisher during his early years in the family business. Mike qualified as a diamond grader at HDR. He then went on to study at the world-famous Gemological Institute of America at GIA Carlsbad and became a graduate gemologist. Working his way through the business alongside his father, Edward, and Uncle Joe. Mike became a diamond buyer, quality controller, and head production manager. Sorry, my computer is taking time. And head production manager, sorry about that, becoming a manager and director. Mike now oversees new business development in Asia and Europe. He has drawn in 20 years of experience in diamonds and co-created the new patented Royal Asscher Oval, Royal Asscher Round, and the Cushion. He is a husband and a father of 4. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Prernaa, who is a jewelry influencer and advisor. She's currently in India and has a phenomenal following and love for jewelry and diamonds. She is India's first jewelry influencer with 18 years of experience in gems and jewelry in the gems and jewelry industry. She has taken formal training from GIA, and SNDI. Prernaa is currently involved with GIA's Alumni India, WJA's India, and the Young Diamantaires. Her experience involves advertising and curating bridal jewelry for some of the biggest jewelry companies around. Recently, Prernaa has initiated the not-for-profit endeavor during the pandemic to support up-and-coming designers. I welcome all 3 of you, and we are going to get started. How's everyone doing?
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Erica, for having us.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, Erica. Great to be back here.
Welcome back, Mike. So to get started, we all have a massive love for diamonds. And I think when this topic came up, the 3 of you both had great stories and something you could each share. Diamonds have a long history dating all the way back to the ancients. What is one of those lessons that you have learned surrounding diamonds that you've always enjoyed? Prernaa, would you like to start?
Thanks, Erica, for having me here. Good evening, everyone. It's a very funny story. As you know, as a child, my grandmother used to call me Kohinoor, and at that point in time, I used to wonder. All I knew was Kohinoor was a diamond, and all I knew it originated in India, but I did not know anything about the story of the Kohinoor. Later, as and when I started studying jewelry, that's when I got very inquisitive and wanted to find out what Kohinoor diamond was all about. And later, I got to know that, originally when it was from the Golconda mines, it was about 793 carats at that point in time, which was by the Kakatiya dynasty at that point. Later, there was a very interesting story that, how the various dynasties and the emperors and the kings got the Kohinoor diamond. And the most interesting part is that the diamond was never sold or bought. It was always, it went on to different people, either by, when they would have a war or they would acquire it in some or the other way. So there's one of the most interesting stories of this, of the Kohinoor is of Nadir Shah of Persia and how he acquired it. So in one of the wars, when he was about to acquire the kingdom, he actually spoke to Muhammad Shah, who used to have the Kohinoor diamond in his turban. He used to actually have it folded in that. And at that point in time, when there was a feast that was organized by Nadir Shah, he told Muhammad Shah that as a friendly gesture, he would like to exchange his turban. And with that friendly gesture, Muhammad Shah couldn't ignore it or could not say no. And this is how Nadir Shah acquired the diamond. And that was, it was such a fascinating story because when he acquired that and he went back to his kingdom, that's when he realized that, hey, I've actually got the Kohinoor. And so another funny story about the Kohinoor was that the way it came now, since that it is in London, the way it came to London. And before I go to that, I would like to say that there was one consort of Nadir Shah. He said that if a strong man were to allow if a strong man was to throw 4 stones, one north, one south, one east, and one west, and a 5th stone up in the air, if the space between them were to be filled with gold, all would still not value the amount of the Kohinoor. So, it's just fascinating how the Kohinoor came into existence. I think there is something Mike and Chris also would like to add to this.
Chris, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Thank you. I think we're going to get to the historic diamonds part first. But if you ask, what is so fascinating about diamonds, it is if you look at a rough diamond, especially octahedron shape, how perfectly it's formed by nature, and you go back in history, 3,000-4,000 years, it was perceived always as the tears of the gods, yeah. And this doesn't matter, from which culture it came from the Indian culture or from the Greek culture. Diamonds have been strong the last thousands of years, you can say. That's always what fascinates me on them.
Yeah, well, it is funny that you say, because tears of the gods is definitely something that is we have been actually using for so many times within our own history of our company. But what's so special about the diamonds, and I'm going to give it back to you, Chris, because it is for everybody in every different culture, it has the exact same symbolism, and that's the symbol of eternal love. And I think that, Chris, you wanted to share something about that historical part specifically that makes it so fascinating. And I think it also had to do something with your background.
Well, it does a little. So just that everyone knows, I come from a classic retail background. We have a family business here in Munich, Germany, and another store as well. And Prernaa and Mike, we actually also physically know each other. We're part of a group called the Young Diamantaires. So if anyone is under the age of 45 and is active in the diamond industry, we are the ones that make up this group as well. And the one story Mike meant is because what also, I don't know if Mike and Prernaa even know this, but in college I was a professional tour guide. Yeah, I was young and I needed the money. So I started out giving historic tours to all the castles around us in Bavaria. And this is where I picked up all my love and my knowledge. And one story that really got to me was, especially in the jewelry industry, is the diamond engagement ring. Yeah, so if anyone's familiar with the engagement rings, they have been around since Roman times, even longer in Celtic cultures, dating back, Roman times, 2,000 years. But the first diamond engagement ring wasn't until 1477. This was when Maximilian of Habsburg gave his future wife, Mary of Burgundy, a diamond engagement ring. Yeah, so this is basically the first engagement ring picture. And as you can see, there it is, the very first engagement ring. Now, the special thing why I'm also telling this story is because the Habsburgs, they were the German emperors, but they were also dirt poor. Yeah, so they needed a sponsor making this engagement ring. So it came most likely from an imperial city of the German Empire. So Germany basically is not just the inventor of Mercedes-Benz and BMWs. We also did the first diamond engagement ring as well in that sense.
You guys are winning across the whole board. That's awesome. The first engagement ring I knew briefly about, but I didn't know all the details that you had just shared. It's actually really interesting when you start going back into history and you learn all these new facts about something that we are all using every day. If it's as detailed or as that's in a stone. So to dive in and dig deeper is fascinating. And they're great selling points too, especially for clients and customers. They're great selling points.
It's important. It's also a good story because a lot of times, in a negative sense, the engagement has put something down as an invention that came in the 1940s by an American marketing firm. But when you have this story, you know that it goes much deeper. It's not just a marketing story that happened in the 1940s. It's actually something that has been going on for hundreds of years, if you put it that way. The diamond engagement ring is not a new invention in that sense. It's a magical story that has been around a long time.
Absolutely. So to segue into another aspect that I love, we have heard stories and lore about diamonds throughout history. Is there one that is your favorite that is about a specific diamond, legend, or tale? Chris,
I think this is the perfect one for Mike to go first, because as you know, Mike Asscher from the Asscher cut, he probably can give us the best insight here.
Well, I think stories about the history are one thing, but being able to show physical product is the other. So when you look at what I think is one of the most, or maybe the most important and most famous diamond in the world, it is the largest rough diamond ever found, which is called the Cullinan diamond. And by chance, when it was found in 1905 in South Africa, I have a replica in silver model right here. So this is how it was found, and it is I don't know if you can see it well, but it is as big as a man's fist. So when you see that type of product, when it was found, they didn't even know that if it was a real diamond, and it was not found by normal mining. It was actually found by a security guard who did his last round through the shaft. And he saw something in the wall, and he started to slowly dig it out. And eventually he had this immense rough diamond in his hands, and he kept it in his pocket for a couple of days, not knowing if it actually was a real diamond. And eventually he gave it to his boss, and it was Mr. Cullinan. So the diamond was offered to King Edward VII of Great Britain in 1907, actually, or 1906. as a peace offering for the Boer War, as they call it. At that time, King Edward VII of Great Britain invited my great-great-grandfather, who is right there on the wall, to see if we were interested and able to cut and polish this diamond. So my great-great-grandfather went to the king, and he presented the stone, and the difficulty was the stone was heavily included, and the DNA of our family is we cut for beauty and not for yield. So he then said, yeah, of course we would like to take this opportunity and cut that stone. How are you going to get that diamond from London to Amsterdam? And eventually the king said, well, we have a cruiser from Scotland Yard and we'll send it over. And my grandfather said, that's fine, put that in the newspapers and give me the stone. He gave him the stone, and he put the stone in one hand, in one pocket, and a gun in the other, and he took the normal ferry. And on his way home, he met an acquaintance who said, Mr. Asscher, I hear the Cullinan diamond is coming to Amsterdam. Do you know when it's arriving? And the only thing he could say was soon, I hope. And that's only the beginning, because they started to study the stone for approximately 9 months, all its fault lines and irregularities. And then after those 9 months, it was February 1908, and my great-great-grandfather wanted to cleave the diamond. The cleaving the diamond is to break a stone, right, in 2 pieces. At that time, he decided it needed to be broken in multiple stones because it was so heavily included. And that is where this comes in. And I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but this is the original cleaving stick of the Cullinan diamond, where in this side it holds the largest rough stone. And what you do is you put the stone inside, and you take another diamond and you make a small groove inside, and you take a lead pipe and a cleaver's blade, and after the first stroke, the blade broke and not the stone. So he had to create larger tools. And then there is a famous story, I think most of us who have ever read something about the Cullinan, is that Mr. Asscher fainted after cleaving the Cullinan diamond successfully. So when I started in the business, my grandfather was still alive, and I asked him, I said, what's the true story? And he said, well, he didn't faint because of the tension. He fainted because after the success of cleaving the stone, he actually drank so much champagne, then he passed out. I totally understand. So what happened was he cut the stone into 9 large stones and 43 smaller ones. And from the 9 large stones, we have a few samples, of course, which is in the original box. However, what I think is the most beautiful part of history is the Cullinan #1, the Great Star of Africa. It's a pear shape, it's 530 carats, and it's set in the imperial state scepter. And when the Queen Elizabeth had her Diamond Jubilee, we thought, what better to create the replica from the imperial state crown. So this is actually the exact replica. It took us about a year to make it. And the guy, there's only one guy in the whole of Europe that actually repairs the crown jewels. And he is a Dutch guy. And he came to us and he had the exact measurements and drawings of all the little stones, which are here, the rubies, and what I think is something nobody knows. But in the top inside, there is a briolette cut of an amethyst of this big, and it's round, and it's just something spectacular. So I saw there's somebody from the UK here, and if you have the chance, and I'm not sure when they reopen due to COVID, but please go to the Tower of London, and you can actually see the real Cullinan diamond displayed. So that is my story about one of my most favorite diamonds in the world. And we have limited time during this presentation. Otherwise, I could have gone on with so many more stories about the Cullinan diamond. But I know that there is also a few stones where people don't know a lot about. So Chris, why don't you tell me something about something colored?
So if I may, I can't top that story what Mike just did. There's no chance. I mean, I was sticking to every word he was saying, but we have the theme of the history, the title, the history, the lore, and the legend of diamonds. So I thought I'd bring in 2 to 3 that are not that well known. The first one, it actually comes here from my hometown of Bavaria. It is next to the Hope Diamond. The largest blue diamond there is. It's called the blue Wittelsbach. It's about 25 carats, and it was in the possession of the Wittelsbach family up to 1918 when we kind of abolished royalty. If who's not familiar with the Wittelsbach family, they are the oldest royal family in Europe, ruling Bavaria. Bavaria is the southern part of Germany, where all the beer and the Lederhosen and BMWs come from. So they ruled Bavaria from the 12th century up to 1918. Yeah, and like I said, it was about 25 carats. It was at one time in the brooch you just saw, but it had a nifty thing that you could take it out and put it into the crown, so the crown jewels as well. And it kind of got lost after the First World War. It went through a lot of hands, but in 2008 it reappeared. And it was bought by Graf Diamonds, and it caused a big scandal with Graf Diamonds in 2 ways. First of all, especially here in Germany, the Bavarian government had the chance to repurchase it at auction to bring this historic, significant diamond back to Germany into the Crown Jewels collection that is still on display here in Munich. The second thing is Graf had the diamond recut, and this gave a big uproar with the historians because you took something of historic importance and remodeled it basically. The result probably is pretty amazing, but it took away the historic aspect of it. And you can look at this diamond as like the Hope Diamond at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. So if you're up to looking at the most important Bavarian diamond, you can just hop down to Washington once everything reopens again. And then one thing, especially that's in New York at display at the moment. I don't know if is the Metropolitan Museum open, Erica, at the moment, or is it all closed?
It is, but very limited. So
okay.
it is and it isn't. You have to make appointments. So you have to make a reservation beforehand. Okay. And they're only letting a certain amount of people in.
Okay, so if anyone has the chance to go to the Metropolitan Museum, you are in luck because you will see the Dresden green. It is the largest natural fancy colored green diamond in existence. It's either Brazilian or Indian origin. We do not know exactly. It's roughly 41 carats in size, so it's quite big, as you can see here on the picture. And it was purchased in 1722 by King August of Saxony. So why am I telling you about this one? Well, first of all, the importance about it being the largest green diamond, but it came in the news exactly 1 year ago. We had one of the biggest diamond heists in the world. The treasury chamber of the Kingdom of Saxony was raided, and the thing was though that this diamond there, the Dresden green, was supposed to be transported to New York, but no one knew when. So we got lucky because the robbers were able to obtain massive diamond jewelry, including a brooch with a 50-carat diamond, a saber placed in diamonds, and all these other, historic, cultural, historic symbols of importance. So thank you, New York. You saved the green diamond for us, you can say. And like I said, if you have the chance, hop down to Metropolitan Museum of Art and go there. And then the last one, I don't want to bore everyone with a lot of stories about the about.
Keep going. These are great.
Okay, great, thank you. The last one I want to talk about, it's called the Florentine diamond. Now, the Florentine diamond, no one really knows where it came from, but at one point in history, we were able to trace it back to about 1506. It was a modified briolette cut of over 137 carats, fancy yellow. Yeah, so there is only one photograph of the diamond itself, but it's in black and white. And the reason why it has such an historic importance is that it was the guy who bought it in 1506 was the richest man in history, called Jacob Fugger. Yeah, so everyone sitting here probably never heard of this guy before, but the reason why he comes up, or his importance for the diamond world as well, is he was not just the inventor of the newspaper and of modern business. Like I said, he was the richest person in history. You take Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, you take all their wealth combined, you're not even close to where this man was, and almost no one knows about it. And he had trading posts in all of Europe, so in London, Lisbon, Amsterdam, Antwerp. And in Antwerp, he would do trade with India, so he would be importing diamonds into Europe, having them cut there, and then distributing through all the royal houses. So anyone who's interested in diamonds and the history of how they came to the royal houses, I did have a picture here before of him, but it kind of got lost in my pile. But it is Jacob Fugger, and Jacob has the by name Jacob the Rich. So if your by name is Jacob the Rich, you know you really had money and wealth during that time. In history, you can say.
Does that other large blue fluoresce just like the Hope?
Sorry, what?
The other blue that you had just showed us, the blue diamond.
The Zoetll spot, yeah.
Does that fluoresce like the Hope diamond?
So, sorry, your connection was breaking away.
Does it fluoresce the same way as the Hope diamond?
That I do not know. Not that many details are known about it. It's just that it's, you know, it was recut and the whole history. It even belonged to the Emir of Qatar for a brief time and everything. Wow. And like I said, it was a big bummer for Germany, because we did have the chance of regaining it at auction, and the Bavarian government failed like just, you know, a couple $1,000s in bids to secure it, you can say. So otherwise it would have returned home, but now it's in Washington. So you guys, whoever's in the US has a good access to it, you can say.
And Prernaa, do you have a favorite legend or tale surrounding a diamond?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Who are you addressing the question to?
Yeah, to you. Do you have a favorite diamond tale or legend?
So, you know, there are a lot that I did enjoy, but of lately when I was reading the Cartiers, there was one story that I found really interesting when I was reading about how the Maharaja of Patiala's necklace was commissioned by them. And so one of the interesting facts was Mufat, who used to be the Cartier Paris salesperson at that point in time. In 1928, he attended the Maharaja, and the Maharaja gave him a box full of jewels and diamonds and emeralds and rubies. And out of respect, Mufat actually started making a whole list. He was totally in awe of all the gemstones and the diamonds. And he started making a list out of them. And the Maharaja goes like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm penning down all the jewelry and the diamonds that you are, telling me to take." And he said, "No, just take it all." And like, that's the trust Maharaja Bhupinder Singh of Patiala had in the brand Cartier, that he said, "Just take everything, and all I need is modern jewelry for me and my family." And that was, I mean, that trust in the brand was such a fascinating story to to read about, which eventually, when we see the necklace, it had 2,930 diamonds, which was over 1,000 carats. And the centerpiece was almost 234 6 carats, which was a De Beers diamond. So, which happens to be almost a golf ball size. That was, I think, one of the tales that I really enjoyed a lot. And that book is a must read, I must say that. But in fact, I think Mike also has a story to share for that, because they also have commissioned few pieces for the Maharaja of Patiala.
Well, actually, thanks for stating that. But I was looking, and we have we have a whole wall of of royal families behind myself, including Queen Elizabeth with Granny's chips. And I was looking because I know that before the Second World War, we have received the Makhariaa of Patiala here in our office, and I also know where the picture is, but it is not in this office. And if I would take the computer down to the basement where we have our auditorium, then I would not have connection. So unfortunately, I was not able to show that. But when you started to say that, you had such an amazing story about about this necklace, I was like, that is such a great connection that we have, because he has been in this office, maybe even in this chair, but in this office where I'm right now, because it's the same office that we kept in the same stage for the last 120 years. So yeah, it's amazing.
That is, I mean, that history, to have something like that and to actually see it and to have the traceability as well. It's so, these stories, I think, they connect you back to this material. It's not just a diamond, it's not just a rock. It connects you. It's wonderful. So what do you guys all think is so alluring? I mean, from the first engagement ring to having diamonds be around since, forever. What do you think it is that has captivated historians and, people like us? Anyone can answer the question. Chris, would you like to go first?
I'll do it very short. I think it's the natural rareness of diamonds, that they're now mass-produced product and every diamond is unique. And especially when it comes to jewelry, it turns into our personal history. So no matter, you can buy a smartphone and it will be over in 2 to 3 years, but that diamond engagement ring, that necklace you gave to your wife for the birth of your first child, you're going to pass that on throughout the family, and it becomes your personal history. And I think that's how jewelry and diamonds make it so alluring, or are the alluring factor of the whole thing. And I hope we'll all be able to tell this story in the future better than the jewelry industry, and especially the diamond industry, is doing at the moment.
Yeah.
Well,
Mike, what do you think about you? I mean,
I want to
look
jump
what you
in
guys
there.
have created.
There's I'm the 6th generation of our family business, and in history we have cut, well, some of the most important diamonds in the world, so
just some.
It is more that the emotional connection with the product. I've done some presentations in the past for consumer shows, and I had to compete with bigger brands. And I was on stage, and when I started, the first thing I said was, "We are illusionists," and people were wondering, what is he talking about? Because I think the most beautiful aspect of a diamond, going from rough to polished, and then getting that, if you have a rough diamond, I think a rough is something spectacular because you never know what comes out. Even in color, there are so many things that you can do or improve or excite you. And then when you come to that emotional connection of the polished product that goes to the end consumer, and I totally agree with Chris. It's the connection that you make towards every single. There's no other product in the world that I know of that is given on any occasion where there is joy in life. Only. It's the most beautiful moments in life are celebrated with a diamond. And when I was talking lately with the young Diamantaires, we had a panel discussion with Diamonds to Good. and Christina Gambele of Greenwich Street Jewelers was there.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, people within and over the past 6-9 months during this dramatic COVID period that we're all facing, they actually really understand that when you now buy something with such an emotional value, you will keep it for so many generations, and it is not an instant gratification of a phone or any other type of luxury product. No, diamonds are so unique and rare, and we can see it again now. You know, the Argyle mine, pink diamonds, it's closed. What's next?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the connection, the emotional connection that diamond bring to the most beautiful moment in people's life is what amazed me most.
Yeah, I mean, that mine, it closed 6 days ago, 5 days ago, within the last 10 days, I think. But yeah, I mean, some of these mines can't produce the same way they once were, and these large diamonds are when they're found, it's incredible what's created and what's cut. I mean, look at those cuts and the shapes that we're creating from what happened 100 years ago to what we're doing with them today. It's beautiful. Prernaa, what do you?
Sorry, I want to just jump in there, because the thing that you said about the large diamonds. We have now obviously the record with the largest rough diamond ever found. But what is interesting is the technological improvement that we have in the last 2 to 5 years. We have found more large stones above 100 carats than we found in the last 100 years. And that's only by the improvement of technology. And also, it therefore also becomes much more focused and much easier to focus on the traceability of the product.
Interesting.
Sorry to jump in there. Just
no, but that actually will lead into another question. So I do wanna hold off, because I would love to hear from Prernaa and your opinion on this, because you're so influential in India in regards to the jewelry and gem industry, and the influence you have. What do you feel is, from your perspective, what do you feel is so alluring about it?
So you know, last year in 2019, as Chris mentioned, we traveled to South Africa together to the Venetia mines.
Wow.
Experiencing that entire process of what a diamond goes through, right from the mining to a finished diamond, to a cut diamond. I think that experience in itself is so fascinating. And it made me feel so proud that I can actually wear something which takes millions of years to form. That story in itself is so alluring. And I think if that is conveyed properly, as we talk about the blockchain technology, that is conveyed properly to the consumer, that feeling, that emotion in itself is just you know, it brings emotion. It's very fascinating to go through that entire journey. So I think that is really very important. And also, just like Mike said, that every occasion, you know, it's symbolized in a form of gifting a diamond or any form of jewelry. So it's that joy, you know, we say that a diamond is a girl's best friend. That instant spark in our eyes when we see a diamond. So I think it's probably just that.
That's absolutely true. I think, you know, we're always talking about color because of how different it is and what's happening in society, in the world. But we always come back to diamonds. It's a full circle. Yeah. And knowing these little things, knowing the history, it's, you know, it's a diamond. I think that's what it is. It's a diamond. And as long as it's, you know, beautifully cut and set, you know, magnificently, it can survive a lot and many generations as well. So Prernaa, for you, what can you tell us about diamonds today from the trend of what you're seeing, as well as what the trend is in bridal?
So I would say that the trends more than diamond in jewelry, with the current given situation, people are now moving more towards meaningful jewelry. So they have started valuing relationships and emotions much more in the last 8 months or almost a year of this entire pandemic. Mm-hmm. So especially in India, I mean, where we have those Indian big fat weddings, people are now opting for intimate weddings, and they have sort of revised their wedding budgets and working more towards purchasing jewelry. So that's a positive shift to actually see.
Wow.
And with Diwali just having, gone in the past 2-3 days, the markets have actually have seen a very positive sign in the last 1 week. People have done sales more than what they did in the last festival last year. So it's a great comeback for jewelers in India to see that entire shift in the last 1 week. And so, I mean, similarly, engagement rings and bridal rings are always going to be popular because during the pandemic, yes, there were no weddings, but eventually they will happen. Weddings have started to already, they've already started to take place in India, and people in the next 6 months, most of the venues are already sold out because people are just everyone's wedding who had to be, which had to happen during the pandemic is happening now. So I think there'll be a great shift to see that. I would just say it like meaningful jewelry. A lot of people are also shifting towards jewelry which has some sort of spiritual spiritual significance. It could be charms, it could be talismans, it could be evil eye, it could be any form of jewelry that gives them that emotional connect to it. So that's also one thing that I think I would say where the trends are leading towards.
It's interesting the points you bring up, especially with what's happening in the pandemic. I think we've all seen, I think a lot of us have seen shifts where people are either they weren't spending in the beginning and now they're spending, but they're not just buying 5 things like they were doing, in the early 2000s. They're buying one or 2 items, and it is longevity. But it's the larger pieces. It's that secure feeling that I think a lot of people were doing, where like the 1 carat, GH FI1 was very popular. We're now seeing that those stones are getting larger. People are investing slightly different into different shapes. So it's wonderful that we're seeing that across the whole globe, especially in India, where this pandemic has actually really affected the country. So that's actually good to hear. I mean, from a U.S. perspective. Chris, Mike, are you seeing that as well?
Yes, for sure. Well, actually, what we see is, first of all, when the first lockdown was there and markets opened up, we've seen an incredible increase in sales and engagement rings. And first of all, the first part was postponed purchases because March, April, May normally is engagement season. So when in June or July markets opened up, it went through the roof. And secondly, the budgets were larger, mostly because people were staying at home and couldn't spend any money at all. And in Europe, they were definitely not allowed to travel. So their holiday allowance and additional income went to higher ticket prices. Overall, we have seen, especially in the June-July period, that retailers really were more busy than during Christmas last year. So that was good. What I see in trends is authenticity is an authentic story towards the product. Luckily, I have one, so I can share. I know that when we start selling product, you know, we sell 4 patented diamond cuts, and we only do that because we think we cut in the DNA is we cut for beauty and not for yield, and therefore we try to not overfacet the cut, but really add value and add beauty. We see, I think, what a lot of people, retailers, are experiencing. Just ovals are incredibly successful now. But lately, I also see a trend towards just more elongated stones, and it's also because it has a bigger look. And so the funny thing is, if we take the Cullinan collection again, then you see that this is the Cullinan number 2, which is actually 317 carats in real life. But when we started to design our own new Royal Asscher cushion, which was about 3-4 years ago, we cut it exactly as a copy of the Cullinan number 3, which is a square one. And now we have requests, okay, it's such a beautiful cut, can you also make it elongated? So I see that there's a trend of shift towards shape, and the more feminine shapes, the ovals are doing very well. Elongated cushions are doing very well. So that's definitely a trend that we see today happening.
Yeah, those are, I mean, some of those new cuts that you've recently come out with are beautiful. I mean, they are. They're absolutely beautiful. So we briefly mentioned this earlier about the traceability of diamonds, and I think it's something that is always important to discuss, because as more people, especially in the United States, are reading articles and doing their own research from, you know, outside the industry's perspective, we want to know where our material is coming from. We want to know who's cutting it. We want to know that whole blockchain, black and white. We want it in front of us. What is the responsibility that we have? What do you guys see is actually happening in the industry that is bringing these things to be clearer? And the traceability, the sustainability, the responsibility, we're throwing these words out left and right. So what do you really think is the bottom of ensuring that this continues into a positive direction of what the diamond industry is, and make it where people feel like this is good, I'm not wearing quote unquote a blood diamond on my hand?
Well,
Chris, would you like to go for Mike?
Well, if you touch on conflict diamonds, which I think is a better terminology, I think I would be able to start with some of the thought process which is going on. My father retired March 2nd this year after 50 years in our business. And he became the president of the World Diamond Council. And the World Diamond Council is the, I think, highest political body within our industry, dealing with NGOs, dealing with governments, dealing with the mining companies, since 2000, already working on the Kimberley process, and making sure that, I'm not sure if people know within our industry, but the diamond is the second best self-regulated material commodity in the world. Uranium is the number 1. And since we started, and since actually the war in Sierra Leone was over, we have been able to guarantee our whole industry, and 99.999% of our entire value chain, to be conflict-free. And that is something which is a remarkable achievement of our industry. And therefore, I also say that the movie Blood Diamonds was a blessing in the sky for our industry, understanding the importance of transparency, understanding the importance of traceability, not even at that moment, but really looking at social responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important part in the vision of the Kimberley process and the World Diamond Council together is that we are trying now to put more effort into human rights. And what we think is so valuable today is that when you look at the different companies, the different mining companies, is we are all giving back to community, and we are all working so proud and hard to show that and be as transparent as possible to show that which mine is the diamond coming from, eventually who is polishing the stone, which people in the entire value chain are dependent, and how many people in their villages, cities, and surroundings are dependent on our industry. And therefore, this traceability, social responsibility, and ethics is so incredibly important. And I think it's even more important for our industry and at this moment than for the consumer, because there are not so many consumers who walk into a store and say, can you tell me where did it come from? Who polished it? Did he get treated well? They are buying an emotional product for this once in a lifetime experience. I'm gonna get engaged. I really, yes, of course, there are a few people who are interested, and I think it's an obligation of our industry to make sure that we have full transparency, and that we focus. And we see so many great initiatives from Alrosa, from the Beers, from Dominion, that really can show where diamonds are coming from, and how the whole journey of the stone from mine to the engagement ring is focused. I also believe there's a lot of work to do on these specific topics, but I think our industry has been doing an incredible job to get where we are today. So that was from my perspective. Chris, you want to add something?
Not much to add after that. you gave it all, but just to sum it up, like Mike said, the diamond is the only commodity that's really traceable after uranium. If you look at chocolate or oil or whatever else we consume in our daily life, people don't really care that much where it comes from in that sense. So sometimes even overhyped of the diamond traceability, because we do have the Kimberley process and everything in place. So I think a lot comes down also to trust. Yeah, people usually don't buy a diamond from your store or from my store. They buy it from the person, from Chris. If Chris says, you know what, I did my homework, I checked out where is it coming from, I know the sources, I know the supplier. I sell, for instance, Mike Asscher, we do business together, so I sell his diamonds as well. I can always tell the people, I know him personally, I know that he's a good guy, I know that he sources responsibly, and I think that's also a big factor, is not just saying here's the papers, but here's also the trust to the person who's selling this emotional product, you can say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Prernaa, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to traceability, Mike has pretty much said everything, but what I would also like to add is that I think it also matters a lot with one's attitude. I mean, until a few years ago, people were not even bothered about having certificates. It was a process that consumers started understanding the whole process of having a certificate, and now they find it important to know if it's a GI certified, IGI, or any other. Similarly, I think even the blockchain technology, unless the entire ecosystem of this chain gives it importance, the consumer is not going to value it. So it's going to be, it will take a few years, but I think it's more to do with the entire system that we need to change our attitude towards it. I think when it comes to sustainability and responsibility, I see that some of the giant players are already taking measures towards, for example, if I would say somebody like Starrays or Hare Krishna, which are one of the major exporters in India, they are already working towards system where they have power cut down in their factories. They have, they've merged departments together where they think that they could save electricity or any sort of, carbon emission machines. And similarly, I think also just 1 second. Yeah. So even there's a brand called Brilliant Earth, which if you see their website, you can actually see that they mention the origin of the diamonds there. They also have a section where they've mentioned about recycled diamonds. So where diamonds have already been purchased by consumers and can be resold into another piece of jewelry. So I think those are the measures people are already taking, but it's more to do with the consumers, how we educate them.
Yes, Mike.
I want to add one more thing. While we are talking about social responsibility, and I'm going to jump in here on a total different topic, but I think it fits it perfectly. When Prernaa and Chris last year visited the Venetian mine, they also visited the Renaissance School, which is in a very small village, but dependent on the diamond industry. And they noticed that this was with a group of young Diamantaires. They noticed that there are, this is a school with about 2,400 students, mostly built by De Beers, but the school itself does not have a kitchen nor a library. And there are children who are going to school there between the age of 12 and 16, which is a critical age in your life, on 1 meal a day. So I'm just going to put on the chat for everybody to see. If you go to our Young Diamantaires website, ydts.org, you can see the project that we have supported, and also obviously donate for this incredible project, because it is so close to our heart and it fits our social responsibility and our purpose so well. That I wanted to take a moment and drop it in right here, because it's such an important part of what brings Chris, Prernaa, and myself together, next to having fun and seeing each other at the conferences and shows, but something that is so true to our heart, and it fits this ethical and social responsibility part perfectly.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that there's, in this color world, there's definitely organizations that are trying to do the same thing. But to know that there's organizations doing it from the diamond perspective, it softens everything. It makes it easier to understand what's actually happening, because I think so many of our clients come to us with, they've over-educated themselves and they've freaked themselves out and they have all these questions, and you're trying to bring them back down to reality and saying, hey, these are, no, what happened 100 years ago is not happening today, and things have really changed. So we are just getting close to the end, but I want to give you guys all some time. Was there any other stories that you guys wanted to share? Anything else that you love that you wish you got to talk a little bit more about? I want to open it up to the three of you before I let everybody ask some questions, because I know, Chris, there's 1,000,001 diamonds that you have a extreme passion about, and so that's, I would love to give you guys time if there's anything else you want to talk about.
There are, but like I said, I don't want to bore anyone with too much history. I hope everyone here enjoyed the presentation. It was fantastic being here. I always love listening to Mike and Prernaa, what they have, the input, and especially the work of the WGA in general. I know the LA chapter very good, because I do a lot of business in Los Angeles as well, not so much in New York, but I hope to change that in the future. And the WGA is doing a fantastic work as well. So it was thank you so much for having us here today, Erica, and I hope everyone here enjoyed it as well.
Thank you very much for all of you for being part of this, and for everybody who has logged in. I'm going to open everything up in case people have questions. We heard some wonderful stories, so I want everyone to have an opportunity. You all can unmute yourselves if you have questions. So you guys should be able to unmute yourselves now. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask away. I did know there were a few questions that have popped up throughout this, and I know, Chris, you did answer, but are there any books that are your favorites that either talk about the history or diamond cutting that you recommend?
There sadly aren't too many books out there. So you kind of always can find a tidbit here or a tidbit there about historical persons if there is a diamond relation. So an American historian recently wrote the book. It's called The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, or The Richest Man in History, about Jacob Fugger I was talking about before. And there's a good chapter about how the diamond trade was done in Europe during his time period and how he was an active player. So if you're interested into history about the 15th, 16th century, about how diamonds, came to the royal houses and stuff like that, and it's very light reading. So it was not he was actually not a historian. He's a financial advisor on Wall Street. So he wrote the book in a good readable manner. So it's not going to go, you don't have to be a history student to understand what he's writing about. That would be one. And the other one I already wrote in the chat. It's called Facets of Mankind. It was released by someone in the World Federation of Diamond Bourses. He researched this book over a couple of years, and I think it's a good English reference to go through all the historic diamonds if your native language is English, for instance.
Wonderful. Any other questions? No? Okay.
We were so good, we covered it all. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
You guys covered it all. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Prernaa. This was wonderful. I'm so happy we were all able to do this. And stay safe. And I hope everything keeps going in a positive direction for all of you. Thank you very much from WJA and myself for doing this. And have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erica.
It was fun. Thank you.
Guys.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.